We all remember the moment because it refuses to fade. It lingers in the collective memory like an unanswered alarm, ringing long after everyone pretended it had stopped. Quiet house in Las Vegas. A child moving slowly, her body betraying her. Her eyes drifting in a way that no parent should ever ignore. Viewers watched in horror as Kody Brown stumbled through that hallway, lethargic, unfocused, shutting down in real time. At the center of it all was her father, a man who appeared distracted, annoyed, inconvenienced by the interruption of his schedule. At the time we called it negligence. We screamed at the television. We assumed stupidity, ego, chaos. And then, eventually, the show moved on. The story was wrapped up neatly and labeled a tragic mistake. But what if that story was never true? What if the delay that nearly killed truly wasn't confusion at all, but calculation? What if the most horrifying reality is that what we witnessed wasn't a failure to act, but a decision not to? In 2025, that question is no longer just speculation whispered on Reddit threads or dissected in comment sections. It is now allegedly the focus of an active investigation that threatens to rip open a decade-old wound the family believed was safely buried beneath reality TV edits and time. Blurred documents have begun circulating in private forums, stamped with language no family wants attached to their name. Department of Child Safety. Active investigation. 2025. Those words change everything. This isn't about moral outrage anymore. This isn't about fan backlash. This is about the state asking whether a child was deliberately put at risk. And the deeper investigators dig, the more the original narrative collapses under its own weight. Back in season 6, the explanation was simple and rehearsed. They thought it was the flu. They thought she was dehydrated. They were overwhelmed. Too many kids. Too much chaos. It was framed as a relatable parenting failure. Tragic but forgivable. Parents miss things. Doctors intervened. Truly survived. End of story. Except the timeline never made sense. Symptoms escalated. Hours passed. Decisions were delayed again and again while her condition worsened. Now, sources close to individuals no longer loyal to the family are suggesting the delay had nothing to do with uncertainty and everything to do with money. Not just the absence of money, but where that money had gone. According to emerging allegations, the family's health insurance coverage had lapsed during the exact window of Kody's illness. Not accidentally, not forgotten, but allowed to expire while funds were redirected elsewhere. And that elsewhere is where the story turns dark. A struggling jewelry business. A dream pitched as empowerment that quickly became a financial black hole. My sister-wife's closet was bleeding money, and insiders claim it was being propped up at all costs. Costs that may have included something unthinkable. According to leaked theories now being taken far more seriously than before, money earmarked for health insurance premiums was diverted to keep that business alive. If true, that means the decision to delay medical care wasn't just reckless. It was strategic. Investigators are reportedly examining a shared digital calendar from that year, one that allegedly contains cryptic entries during the days Kody's condition deteriorated. Entries that don't read like normal family reminders. Phrases like "no ER" and "wait for check." If authenticated, those words are chilling. They suggest the family wasn't waiting to see if Kody improved. They were waiting for money to clear. Suddenly, everything about that footage looks different. Kody asking Kody if she's okay no longer feels like concern. Feels like stalling. Feels like someone watching a clock, not a child. It feels like a man buying time, hoping a deposit hits before a decision has to be made. And when you follow that thread forward into the present, Kody's recent behavior begins to look less like coincidence and more like panic. Reports have surfaced of him driving back and forth between Flagstaff and Las Vegas at odd hours. Solo trips. Middle-of-the-night movements. Behavior completely out of character for a man who never lifted furniture himself and always delegated physical labor. Insiders suggest he isn't moving property. He's chasing paper. Old medical bills. Insurance notices. Financial ledgers. The kind of documents that don't lose their power just because time has passed. There is growing speculation around a storage unit in Nevada, one that reportedly stopped being paid for. When storage units go into default, their contents don't disappear quietly. They are auctioned, cataloged, sometimes seized. If that unit contains proof of lapsed insurance coverage or financial misappropriation tied to a child's medical crisis, then every frantic mile driven suddenly makes sense. This isn't nostalgia. This is damage control. Because once paper trails surface, no amount of rewriting history can save you. What pushed this story from rumor to reckoning may be the one person who no longer has any reason to protect the family narrative. Truly is older now. She is articulate, observant, and according to sources, during a recent routine appointment with a new doctor in Utah, she disclosed details about her childhood medical crisis that immediately raised red flags. Not vague memories, specific recollections, home treatments, delays, decisions made instead of calling for help. For a mandated reporter, that kind of disclosure isn't optional to ignore. The law requires action. One phone call can reopen a case everyone assumed was closed forever. And once Utah authorities begin talking to Nevada, once agencies start comparing timelines and records, the past stops being safely buried. For years, the Browns lived under the belief that the state was their enemy. They said it constantly. The government wanted to break up their family. That fear became a shield, a way to keep outsiders away. But investigators now suspect that fear may have been used to hide something far more dangerous than plural marriage. If hospital doors meant audits, if insurance claims meant financial exposure, then avoiding care wasn't just about money. It was about control. And control has always been Kody's obsession. Allegations suggest the family used coded language to discuss finances without production knowing. That Janelle, the numbers-focused wife, tracked premiums and warned Kody of the risk. That she knew exactly when they were exposed. And that despite those warnings, he made the call to wait. Seen through that lens, his behavior no longer looks clueless. It looks deliberate. He wasn't waiting for improvement. He was waiting for a wire transfer. And while the public narrative painted Robin as the anxious, overprotective mother, insiders are now suggesting her role may have been far more active. Allegations have surfaced that she administered home remedies meant to replace professional care, treatments that may have worsened Truly's kidney failure instead of helping it. If true, that places her directly in the chain of events, not as a bystander but as a participant. And if the money that should have paid for insurance was keeping her business afloat, then the benefit becomes impossible to ignore. Investigators aren't just reviewing medical charts anymore. They're following the money. Because fraud lives in intent, and intent leaves fingerprints in bank statements. And as this pressure mounts, the silence from Flagstaff has grown louder. The deeper investigators look, the more the story begins to shift from uncomfortable to unbearable. Because once you accept the possibility that the delay was intentional, every small detail suddenly matters. The calendar entries stop being vague reminders and start looking like instructions. The frantic explanations stop sounding defensive and start sounding rehearsed. And the behavior that once seemed merely arrogant begins to resemble something far more dangerous. According to sources now closely watching the situation, the calendar wasn't just a passive record of events. It was allegedly a financial survival tool. Days marked not by school drop-offs or filming schedules, but by money, checks clearing, bonuses pending, bills waiting. And right in the middle of those entries sits Truly's illness, boxed in by phrases that suggest a conscious choice to delay outside intervention. No ER. Wait for check. If authenticated, those words don't just imply hesitation. They imply a plan. When people ask how a parent could possibly justify waiting while a child's organs shut down, the answer may lie in fear. Not fear of losing a child, but fear of exposure. At that time, the family was balancing on a financial knife's edge. The image presented on television suggested stability, even prosperity. But behind the scenes, insiders say the finances were unraveling. Multiple households, multiple dependents, a business hemorrhaging money. and a public persona built on the illusion of control. If the insurance had truly lapsed, walking into an emergency room wasn't just a medical decision. It was a financial landmine. Hospital intake forms trigger databases. Insurance claims trigger audits. Audits expose books. And books tell stories that can't be edited. This context casts Kody's on-screen behavior in an entirely new light. His constant hovering without acting. His repeated questions that go nowhere. His visible irritation when the situation drags on. At the time, viewers saw a man overwhelmed by chaos. Now, investigators are reportedly viewing a man trapped between two unacceptable outcomes. Pay out of pocket and risk exposing financial mismanagement, or wait and hope the situation resolves itself before the consequences arrive. It's an unthinkable calculation, but one that grows more plausible when money, ego, and fear collide. And according to emerging theories, Kody didn't make that decision alone. Janelle's role has become one of the most closely examined aspects of the investigation, not because she is accused of wrongdoing, but because she may be the one who understood the danger first. As the family's unofficial accountant, she was reportedly tracking payments, premiums, and deadlines. She knew when coverage was active. She knew when it wasn't. And sources suggest she warned Kody repeatedly that they were exposed. That a hospital visit could open doors they had worked for years to keep closed. If true, this places her at a critical crossroads. A woman who saw the cliff edge and watched someone else decide to keep driving. And it may explain why, years later, she allegedly kept copies of everything. Every notice, every bounced payment, every transfer that didn't sit right. At the time it may have looked like paranoia. In hindsight it looks like self-preservation. And then there is Robyn. The narrative has always painted her as emotional, anxious, overly protective. But allegations now surfacing suggest her anxiety may have taken a dangerous form. According to insider accounts, she may have actively resisted taking Truly to the hospital, insisting on home treatments and alternative remedies that she believed would resolve the illness without outside involvement. Fluids, supplements, methods intended to flush the system. But kidneys in distress don't need flushing. They need intervention. And if those remedies were administered while Truly's organs were already failing, the consequences could have been devastating. If proven, that transforms Robyn's role from passive observer to active participant in the delay. This is why investigators are reportedly examining not just medical records, but testimony. What was said in that house during those days? Who argued? Who insisted on waiting? Who made the final call? Because criminal cases aren't built on accidents. They are built on decisions. And the decision to wait appears to have been made more than once. Each time the risk increased. Each time the justification became harder to defend. And yet, the family continued to stall. Until they couldn't anymore. The shift from speculation to serious legal concern reportedly began when Truly herself spoke up. Not in a dramatic confrontation. Not in a public accusation. But quietly, during a routine doctor's visit. According to sources, she described the events surrounding her illness with a level of clarity that startled the physician. Details about how long she felt sick. How she was treated at home. How long it took before anyone sought help. For a mandated reporter, those details aren't just concerning. They are actionable. The law doesn't require certainty. It requires suspicion. And suspicion, once documented, sets a chain reaction in motion that no one can stop. That single conversation may have been the spark that reignited everything. Utah authorities reaching out to Nevada. Old records pulled. Timelines reconstructed. Suddenly, a story everyone assumed had been resolved is back under a microscope. And that's when the panic reportedly began. Kody's movements became erratic. The late-night drives. The sudden urgency. The frantic attempts to access old storage units. If there was ever a time to destroy paper trails, it would be now. Because once investigators know where to look, the clock starts ticking. And then came the digital discovery that changed the entire tone of the situation. Voicemail. Allegedly deleted. Allegedly forgotten. Recovered from a shared family data plan that spanned multiple devices and years. The timestamp alone sent shockwaves through those who heard about it. It was left on the exact night Truly was finally admitted to the hospital. And according to those familiar with its contents, the message isn't ambiguous. It doesn't express confusion or fear for a child's life. It expresses fear of financial scrutiny. Kody's voice, reportedly hushed and urgent, instructing Christine not to give doctors his name, telling her to put it under hers, saying he can't have the state looking at his finances right now. Those words, if authenticated, don't just suggest negligence. They suggest intent. That voicemail reframes the entire crisis. For years, the defense was ignorance. He didn't know how bad it was. He didn't understand the symptoms. But that message suggests he knew exactly how serious the situation had become. Serious enough to worry about the state. Serious enough to anticipate scrutiny. You don't fear financial audits during a routine flu visit. You fear them when you know you're walking into an ICU without coverage. You fear them when you know the questions won't stop at the medical chart. And that is where the betrayal truly begins. Because while Kody was allegedly trying to erase evidence, someone else was quietly preserving it. Janelle, the woman who balanced the books. The woman who saw the warning signs. Sources now suggest she didn't just walk away from the marriage with emotional scars and an RV. She walked away with proof. Once the paper trail becomes the focus, everything accelerates. Investigators no longer ask whether something feels wrong. They ask what can be proven. Timelines are reconstructed down to the hour. Financial records are layered over medical records. Phone logs are matched against hospital admissions. And suddenly, patterns begin to emerge that are impossible to ignore. The delay wasn't a single moment of hesitation. It was a sequence. A series of choices stacked on top of one another, each one increasing the risk, each one narrowing the excuses. What once looked like chaos now looks disturbingly organized. According to sources watching the investigation unfold, the money movements around that period line up too neatly with the medical crisis to be coincidence. Premium notices arriving, funds being transferred elsewhere, coverage lapsing, child getting sick, care being delayed, then panic. That panic is what may have exposed everything. 'Cause panic makes people sloppy. Panic makes them forget that nothing in the digital age ever truly disappears. While physical documents can be shredded, burned, or buried, digital records have a way of resurfacing at the worst possible moment. Shared family plans, old backups, cloud storage tied to devices long forgotten. The voicemail is only one piece, but it's the most emotionally devastating one. According to those familiar with the audio, Kody's voice isn't calm. It isn't confused. It's urgent, controlled, whispered. The kind of voice someone uses when they know they're crossing a line and don't want witnesses. The message isn't about Truly's pain. It's about his exposure, about his name, about his finances. And once that context is applied retroactively, the entire crisis takes on a new, horrifying clarity. For years, viewers believed Kody was simply unaware, that he didn't grasp how dire things had become. But that voicemail suggests he understood exactly what was happening and what it could lead to. He wasn't worried about medical outcomes. He was worried about paper trails. And that single fear ties together everything else investigators are now examining. The calendar codes, the delayed ER visit, the frantic attempts to locate old records, the sudden silence. It all points to a man who knew the moment Truly crossed the threshold of that hospital, the story would no longer belong to him. That loss of control may be the most unbearable part for him. Kody has always thrived on narrative dominance. He framed conflicts. He assigned blame. He decided who was loyal and who wasn't. But financial records don't care about hierarchy. Bank statements don't respect patriarchy. And voicemails don't forget. The walls that once protected him have become liabilities, and the people he once relied on to maintain the illusion are no longer playing along. Christine has the voicemail. Janelle has the numbers. Truly has the testimony. Each one holds a piece of the puzzle, and together they form a picture that is deeply troubling. As legal pressure builds, behavior changes. According to reports, assets tied to the family have begun quietly surfacing on resale platforms. Not casual listings, not collectors downsizing, urgent sales, luxury watches, art pieces, items that were once proudly displayed now stripped of sentiment and converted into cash. The descriptions are short, the prices aggressive, immediate payment requested, no returns. It's the language of desperation. People familiar with financial investigations recognize this pattern instantly. When accounts are frozen or under scrutiny, cash becomes oxygen, and oxygen is scarce. There are also rumors that inventory from the long-defunct jewelry business is being dumped in bulk. Boxes of unsold pieces allegedly sold for scrap, pennies on the dollar, just to generate liquidity. It's a fire sale, not of property, but of identity. The symbols of success that once justified so many sacrifices are being liquidated to fund survival. And that irony hasn't gone unnoticed by those following the case. The same man who allegedly delayed care to avoid medical costs is now hemorrhaging assets to avoid prison. But liquidation raises another question, one investigators are reportedly asking quietly. Is this about defense or escape? A high-level criminal defense attorney doesn't come cheap. Retainers alone can reach staggering figures. But fleeing also requires cash. And Kody's history complicates the picture. When confronted with consequences, he has always run emotionally. Physically leaving is a different step, but not an unthinkable one for someone who believes the world is conspiring against him. The speculation has reached a fever pitch. If he disappears, if the Flagstaff property is found empty, it would confirm what many already suspect. Innocent men don't plan exits. Meanwhile, the atmosphere around the house has reportedly shifted. Neighbors describe an unusual stillness. Unmarked cars lingering. Curtains that never open. A sense that something is coming. Process servers allegedly waiting for the right moment. Investigators reportedly building a case methodically, knowing that rushing could give him time to destroy what remains. This isn't reality TV anymore. There are no confessionals. No producers smoothing edges. This is the slow, relentless machinery of the legal system doing what it does best. Waiting, watching, documenting. The psychological toll of that waiting is immense. Kody is a man who demands loyalty, yet loyalty is exactly what he no longer has. The wives he marginalized are now independent. The children he ignored are grown. The authority he wielded has evaporated. And the fear that once kept everyone in line has turned inward. He can't charm a forensic accountant. He can't argue with timestamps. He can't gaslight an audio file. Every day that passes without resolution tightens the noose a little more. What makes this moment so significant isn't just the potential charges. It's the collapse of the story the family sold for nearly 2 decades. The idea that they always put the children first. That love justified chaos. That mistakes were innocent. If the allegations hold, that foundation crumbles completely. What remains is a far darker narrative. One where a child became collateral damage in a financial gamble. One where ego and image outweighed safety. One where silence was enforced until it no longer could be. And yet, amid all of this, the most powerful figure in the story is the one who once had the least voice. Truly survived. She grew up. She spoke. And by doing so, she may have set in motion a chain of events that cannot be stopped. Investigators don't need outrage. They need facts. And facts, once uncovered, don't care how long it took to find them. They don't expire quietly. They wait. And now, after all these years, they are finally being brought into the light. Because somewhere in a box, or on a server, or in a forgotten backup, the truth is sitting patiently, ready to be read aloud. And when it is, there will be no way to edit it out.